In this lecture, we will review the Agile principles. Here are the 12 Agile principles as inscribed in the Agile Manifesto. Let's start with the first principle. This principle implies that in order to be Agile, the number one objective should be to satisfy the customer. Not management, not your boss or your colleagues, but the customer. This means that the vast majority of the day-to-day activities of an Agile team should be aimed at satisfying the customers. And the best way to satisfy customer is not by providing verbal updates or written status reports, rather by giving them useful software frequently and continuously. Now let's talk about the second principle. In waterfall process, there is a significant resistance to change. Once requirements are locked in at the end of the requirements phase, the team just keeps implementing those requirements for an extended period of time. Any changes that might be requested during this period faces a pushback from the team. As a result, the customer's business might be adversely impacted. An Agile process, however, must be such that it is able to accommodate changes routinely. Two of the reasons why Agile processes are able to easily accommodate changes are, number one, they build using user stories, where each user story represents a useful and usable piece of functionality. And second, Agile processes build in short durations called sprints. There are other reasons as well due to which Agile methodologies are able to accommodate changes easily, but these are the two key ones. Let's take a look at the third principle. Waterfall process can deliver software only after an extended period of time, which can be anywhere from several months to more than a year sometimes. This Agile principle implies that for a process to be Agile, it must be able to deliver useful working software frequently. And it is to embrace this principle that most Agile processes work in short durations called sprints or iterations, which can be anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks, with a strong recommendation to have 1 to 2 week sprints. Moving on to the fourth principle. Business people can be proxy for the customer, or business people can be the actual customer. More importantly, it is the business teams that sponsor or fund the work to be done, and hence it is imperative that Agile teams maintain their trust with the business. If there is a lack of trust between business and Agile teams, it can lead to business trying to micromanage the Agile teams. To build trust with business, Agile processes must include ways to partner with business, and they can do so by engaging business in activities such as user story reviews, mock-up reviews, and demos, and of course by delivering useful working software every sprint. Now let's talk about the fifth principle. This principle emphasizes the fact that in order to be Agile, it is not enough to just have the right skills in a team, but also equally important that the team is motivated. Unmotivated teams are reactive, they lack passion, and they do just enough work to get by. On the other hand, motivated teams are creative, they are proactive, and they go above and beyond consistently. It is management's responsibility to motivate their teams. They can do so by creating a larger purpose, an inspiring vision, and challenging initiatives. Studies have shown that the three factors that fuel motivation are autonomy, purpose, and mastery. Now let's talk a little bit about the sixth principle. Waterfall process is notorious for overworking team members, since in this process, productivity is measured by measuring utilization. That is, by measuring how busy team members are during the software development lifecycle. As a result, waterfall team members are overloaded with tasks and work. Studies have shown that high utilization leads to poor quality and lower predictability. This is unsustainable. Agile processes, on the other hand, are expected to abide by human constraints of productive working hours and limited number of daily working hours. And hence, agile processes are sustainable all the while maintaining a consistent value delivery velocity with quality and predictability. Moving on to the seventh principle. This principle clarifies that true progress is very hard to gauge via status reports, since such reports can be quite subjective and biased towards the point of view of the person who prepares the reports. Instead, working software is an objective way to measure progress. Working software cannot be biased by an individual's point of view. In other words, product demos are the holy grail of measuring progress in any agile process. Now let's talk about the eighth principle. Studies have shown that almost 80% of communication between people is non-verbal. This agile principle is based on this fact, and hence advocates for face-to-face communication as much as possible. Face-to-face communication helps to build rapport faster and reduces the chance of misunderstandings. This principle is applicable to not just communication among Agile team members, but also for communication between Agile team and stakeholders, between Agile team and customers, between customers and stakeholders, and essentially everybody involved in the product development process. Now, don't take this to mean that all communication must be face-to-face. Of course, teams will need to use email and phone calls as needed from time to time. Rather, this principle is about communicating face-to-face as much as possible, especially for collaboration discussions, decision-making discussions, issues resolution discussions, etc. For distributed teams, use video conferencing tools for face-to-face communication. Moving on to the ninth principle. This principle implies that an agile process must aim to build quality into the software application right from the start. In waterfall, quality is tested and verified during the testing phase when defects are fixed. But that is too late, as by then the major structural defects cannot be fixed, so they are just simply band-aided over. Agile processes, on the other hand, ensure quality into the software application right from the get-go by using techniques such as code reviews, design sessions, code quality analysis, refactoring, etc. This principle implies that teams adopting Agile need to embrace such practices right from the start. Moving on to the 10th principle. This principle glorifies the virtue of simplicity. In other words, it implies that Agile processes should aim to find the simplest possible solution to meet a customer's need, and then continue to expand that solution incrementally based on evolving customer needs. This is quite different from the approach which is common in waterfall methodology, where in order to meet a customer's needs, one starts off with a complex solution with all the bells and whistles and extraneous functionalities. And most of those functionalities ends up not getting used at all. Now, let's talk about the 11th principle. This principle implies that in a true Agile process, one should rely on the Agile team to come up with the architecture, the design, and the solution to a given customer's problem. The team is best positioned to come up with the best architecture and design since they have the knowledge and they are the ones that are actually doing the work. Eminent and world-renowned business thinkers such as Peter Drucker have also echoed the same principle in their management theories, which is that workers are the most knowledgeable about how best to perform their work and hence must be listened to. And finally, let's talk about the 12th principle in the Agile Manifesto. This principle points out a very important aspect of being Agile, which is that Agile processes must seek to continuously refine and improve. Agile teams must look back at their process frequently and identify what worked and what needs to be improved upon. As you may know, this fine-tuning and refinement happens via the retrospective meetings that are part of all Agile methodologies. So that wraps up our review of the 12 Agile principles. And I really hope that this lecture helped you understand the subtleties and the nuances behind each of these principles.